Hey y'all, this is Tasha. We are back with another video. Thank you so much for stopping into my channel. Y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We are going to jump right into the review this week of Married at First Sight, Season 13, Episode 8, because even if there's not a whole lot going on, it's 2 hours. It's 5 couples. There's always a lot of moving parts. So let's jump in and get started, y'all. But before we jump into the episode this week, I wanted to go back to last week a little bit of, y'all remember, of course, the whole situation that Zach and Michaela got into. I don't necessarily watch Unfiltered, but I watched some other reviews and I actually saw Zach comment in the comment section on one of the reviews I watched that said that Michaela knew where he was going the next morning. And so he was just, not sure why she flipped out. I'm not sure either then if she knew, and it's so weird of if they're editing the show that way just to make her look bad, but also it's hard because during no parts of that conversation did he say that he said it for them to edit that part out. So I was just super confused of what is going on with that situation. I don't want to have to watch another show to get the gist of what's happening. And I just don't understand why they would leave that part out. Of course, unless they're trying to paint this picture of Hurricane K or whatever, of her flipping out. I just don't know. But I thought I would mention that since we talked about that. And that was kind of a big deal in the episode last week. But this episode, we're starting off on day 11 of the marriage. All the couples are waking up. Jose and Rachel open up the episode. They're going plant shopping for some new plant babies. And of course, y'all know Jose already know exactly what he wants. What flowers he wants, what herbs he wants, because he want to start cooking with some of these things. Like, he already got it all laid out. And I'm like, gosh, this man gets pickier by the episode. And he gets more feminine by the episode. That would be a red flag for me, and I would be exiting stage left. But obviously Rachel don't really have that big of an issue with it. Anyway, we move on. We see that Zach meets up with one of his friends, and Zach's friend is kind of cute. I'm like, you single friend, Zach? I don't know. But he says they've had some ups and downs already, which we've clearly seen. He updates him on the situation about her leaving the house because she couldn't find him. He said that after they met with Pastor Cal, she basically left the house again. And then they talked about an hour later, I believe. And she said that she wanted to cancel the housewarming because she just really wasn't feeling it and didn't want to do it. And I'm like, Michaela, get it together, girl. Or again, something further and deeper is going down that we are not seeing on the show, because both of them seem to still be pretty upset about the situation, which we will talk about in the episode later. But Zach's friend did share that he may have some fairy tale expectations of marriage and he needs to be more realistic. And I do agree with that as well. Zach goes back to explaining some of what happened in his previous relationship, that he's had some very outspoken women, and why I see no problem with that. He says that just didn't mesh well with his personality. And he basically says if this isn't something that they can fix, i.e. she can fix, then he don't see it working out. Gil and Mirla then discuss finances and how they would divide their money, because we know he's cheap, she's not. She don't even know how much money she spends on groceries, and it's just her. I'm like, how you don't know how much money you spending on groceries? You're not feeding the family. It is just you. But they look at each other's bank accounts and Gail is like, your savings look good. So obviously her brother was right that she is saving quite a bit of her money. And then as she looks at Gil's, you see that Gil immediately kind of starts coming with some excuses. He's like, I'll be sending some money back to Colombia and there's some savings there. I do have a lot of my savings rolled up into my 401k. So basically you see him kind of explaining. You look at Mirla's face. She's kind of doing the calculations in her head. And then you see the disappointment written all over her face of, they have matched me with a broke man. I ain't asked for this, along with the bald head and the dog. I ain't asked for no broke man. Where y'all get him from? But again, I don't know if she requested somebody that's in her tax bracket or not. And again, that's one of the things the expert did not listen to on that, but you can kind of see it, going on in her head as they are in the scene at the moment. But I believe we all knew, and she knew, that with him being a firefighter, that she was going to be the breadwinner in this situation. So she basically is like, so I guess we kind of start now savings from scratch. And she's like, yeah, because my savings over here is my savings. And for now, I don't blame her. Y'all don't know if y'all gonna stay together. It's only been 2 weeks. So we then see Brent go out with a girlfriend, and Ryan is working out at the gym with one of his friends. They both say things are going well so far. He tells his friend how she was terrified on the plane, and she's just high stress and high anxiety. And, with the little excursion they had in the honeymoon, I'm like, here Ryan go again with these trigger words of describing her and you making her out to be a certain person to your friend that does not even know her. I do not like that about him at all, and he just continues to do it every single episode. Brent shares that she is attracted to him, and he says he's attracted to her as well. And I'm like, again, it's hard for me to tell between the two of y'all who is attracted, but if y'all say so, I guess we'll have no choice but to believe you guys. Next, we see Bao meeting with her friend, and she shares how, when she saw Johnny at the end of the aisle, she kind of immediately got in her head about what she knew about him, with him being a party guy. But then, as she started walking towards the end of the aisle, she kind of started thinking about how they would complement each other more. But then she says that Johnny's a bit dismissive and he doesn't take things seriously. And I don't see this so much in Johnny. I can see where she could maybe get the dismissive from, of kind of the stories he had with going on so many first dates and just really like swiping right immediately when, something goes wrong that he doesn't like, and he just moves on to the next person. So yeah, he can be dismissive in that sense. But I have not really seen a situation where he's been really immature or dismissive in her feelings thus far for being on the honeymoon and then being back at home. But again, maybe it's something that we're not seeing on camera. She says how he needed some time apart, and she didn't understand it, but her friend did bring up a good point with him being alone for so long. I think he had been single for like 8 years, that he just may need some time to come around, but he doesn't think that is equivalent to him not being actually committed to her in the relationship. So I'm glad there's somebody in her corner to help kind of bring her back down to reality a little bit, because Bao can kind of elevate herself and have herself all in a tizzy when it's not even that serious. So I'm glad her friend was able to kind of level set her and bring her back down to reality. Then we see all the guys to get together. They hang out. The girls on the other side are kind of hanging out as well, talking about their upcoming housewarming. The guys talk about how married life is going and if it was what they expected. And of course, Jose is like, everything is perfect, perfect, perfect. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. Michaela shares that Zach is back home, but she does not talk about the fight that they had, because she says they're kind of still in the midst of it and she really don't want to discuss it. And I don't blame her, because when you really haven't had any resolve around it, you don't really want a whole bunch of other people's opinions in your business when you kind of don't even have a clear idea of how you're going to move forward at that time. The ladies talk about the adjustment of now living with their husbands, and Ryan and Gil says, it's like hanging out with a friend. And I'm like, so have both of y'all friend zoned your wife? And if you have, how you gonna come up out of that? Because it's not your friend, it's your wife. Brent said that her and Ryan had a $5 bet on Mirla that she had not kissed Gil yet. And and Brent was like, I won because I knew you were not kissing that man yet. And I was correct. So he owes me my $5 when we get back home. The girls ask if anyone has consummated their marriage, and basically they all do a thumbs down and say no. I really didn't see what Rachel did, but I'm assuming she said no, because I'm assuming if she said yes, the girls would have been all in her business after that, wanting to know all the details. And I'm like, why y'all lying? I understand it, sometimes being personal, y'all, but we are all adults here. Cut it out, okay? Cut it out. We then flash over to the guys, and Zach is being big man on campus, and he's like, "Yep, Michaela probably is gonna get mad at me for when she sees it, but we have smashed." And all the guys are like, "Hey, you were in COVID quarantine. What the heck?" So it doesn't look like he at least spilled the beans that it was what, the first or the second night. So at least he kept that part to himself. Johnny says that it feels like he's dating a friend, and Bao feels like that he is not making, that she is making advances and he is not reciprocating them. And again, I guess that's coming off from of what he mentioned last week of feeling like she's a little kiddish and childlike sometimes, where he feels like that maybe just does not turn him on in a sense of I'm ready to get it on. So he kind of, stays away a little bit. Johnny says that he is somewhat attracted to Bao, but he says that Bao really isn't his type. Like physically, she looks amazing, but personality-wise, not really the person that he would really go for. Gil says that to Johnny that, maybe he's just used to a certain type, and he doesn't know what may be good for him, and Bao just maybe what he is missing. He just doesn't know yet. And I agree, they may be the missing puzzle to each of each other's, the missing piece to each of each other's puzzle, but they just can't get out of each of their heads long enough to actually just be in the moment with each other. But Bao basically shares the same thing with the girls that she shared with her guy friend about how, he needed some time away and things like that. And she's like, we're married. This is what it is. And I agree, but it's still an adjustment period for y'all when y'all have been single for so long. The guys then talk about the patience that will be needed to really try to make things work and really give this experiment a fair shot. Johnny thinks he has a moment alone with the camera, and he starts to tear up, and he starts to say that he's not sure if he was ready for marriage. And I really hate this because this is really something you need to come to a realization about before you get married, because now this puts Bao in a hard situation where she's kind of committed and she's in this and she's bought into this, and she thinks you are too because you've been a part of this experiment. And now she may have to, be with a man who does not want to really be married, or she just may end up having to get a divorce because he was not. But Jose actually sees that Johnny is like feeling a certain type of way. Johnny actually ends up leaving the group and kind of going into the bathroom. Jose goes to kind of check on him. He starts to kind of cry on his shoulder. They have a whole little bromance going on. And I'm wondering if the two of them maybe should have been matched together. I don't know. Anyway, Johnny seems to be bringing in some of his old behaviors of really wanting this to be perfect. And again, I think he's getting in his own way. Like, just get out of your head, go with the flow. You can't just not like it and then swipe right. You have to stick in it. And I believe that's a hard realization for him that, I can't just leave. I have to figure out some solutions and coping mechanisms to really move on and be in this marriage. And he just has to come to those terms. Gil then comes home and Mila is there already. She's complaining that the dog almost came into the room and that he's just slobbing, And Gil is like, okay, I'll talk to the dog about it. I'm like, girl, it's the dog. What you think he's going to do? Okay, cut it out. Anyway, they talk about the meetings of, meeting with the guys and meeting with the girls and really just catching up. Gil definitely is excited to spill the tea about how Johnny and Bao is kind of having some struggles. We also hear a recording that Gil's mother recorded for them to play during the wedding about, how she said she couldn't be there and things like that. So she hasn't, of course, officially met his mom. So she actually ends up FaceTiming so that they can finally speak to each other and actually get to meet his wife. His mom says, most important thing is love and communication. And Mila is like, and shoes. Don't forget the shoes, because that's what I need to be happy and feel loved in this relationship. We then go back to Johnny and Bao, and Johnny is basically still going through it. It is just so much concern on his face. They lay in bed, and Bao really notices that he does not seem okay. And I'm just like, the two of y'all just go tit for tat and taking turns with these really deep conversations when it's time to go to bed. Like, don't nobody want to go to bed with all of this on their mind every single night. Like, I want a peaceful night of sleep. And I don't want to have to be tossing and turning about this heavy conversation we had right before bed. Like, y'all need to stop it. But Johnny says he had, a mini meltdown, and he's really trying to figure out why he is focusing on all the negative things. And again, it's because he's never really had to face these negative things. He's just run away to the next date with these things instead of facing them head on. He tells her that he is worried that, he wasn't ready for marriage and he just doesn't know. And of course, Bao is like, I don't know what to do with this information. Like, and there really is nothing she can do. He has to come to those terms himself to figure out where he wants to move forward. But I'm just like, these extreme highs and lows that y'all are having are wearing me out. So I know it's wearing y'all out. Next, we see all the newlyweds getting ready for their housewarming with their friends and their family. So Jose and Rachel, they're up first. We have to see Miss Stepmama come again. So I'm hoping she keeps all her, questions about sex to herself this time. And we also see a couple of Rachel's friends come over. So Jose and Rachel talking about the honeymoon. Everything went so great. Everything is great. She's what I asked for. Checked off all the boxes. We're just so infatuated with each other. And I'm like, at this point, are you guys trying to convince yourself? Or are we trying to convince the people that we're in front of just to put on this, perfect couple show? I don't get it at this point because they just keep saying this and they, are with each other and they kiss and rub and do all this. But as they are in their confessionals individually, they have something to say about the other one. So I don't fully understand it, but I guess it ain't for me to understand. Jose uses this opportunity, since he now has, another audience. He uses this to pull out his whiteboard again to talk about his budget, his finances. And he's like, I just think, she'll maybe see stuff on social media and she just wants to keep up with the Joneses. And, I just, just don't want to waste that money. I'm like, she's a grown woman. She's not seeing the newest Barbie on social media and she's begging her mom and dad to purchase it for her, Jose. Cut it out. But he says, there's no right way to do finances, but, when two individuals come together, they should have one account. And I'm like, where you're making it seem like there's only one right way. Huh, Jose? But his stepmama definitely shares in a little confessional that, he's a stickler with his finances. And she says if he is not able to bend, this will be a huge problem. And I'm like, stepmama, absolutely. We all see it. I don't see how he don't see it. He then has to, nope, I already said that part with his whole little whiteboard with his 815 credit score. And he got to let everybody know there's just no chill with him. And I don't know how Rachel is dealing with it because I'd be the nearest divorce attorney ready to get up out of here. He then starts talking about all the traveling and stuff and how he thinks it's just a waste of money. And I think this was extremely inconsiderate of him because he knows how important traveling is to Rachel. And for you to basically say it is a waste of money like that hurts her feelings. That is a hobby that she likes. What if she said saving money was a waste of money, or having all these budgeted things written out on a whiteboard was a waste of time and waste of money? You wouldn't like that. So why would you say, when traveling is so important to her, that that's a waste of money? I hated that he said that. But anyway, his friend and his stepmom step away and talk to Rachel for a bit. And his stepmama really emphasizes, don't give up complete control on him. Do not give him 110% control. And I'm like, are you trying to tell us something? Is this the relationship with you and Jose's father that you're projecting here, and you don't want Rachel to end up in the situation that you were in with his dad? Maybe not. I don't know. But I thought that was very telling in that moment because she was pretty adamant about that. We then see Johnny and Bao have their little luau theme housewarming. Johnny says that he's excited to hang out with other married people, but he isn't quite sure if Bao is his forever person because, there just isn't a spark. And I'm like, wow, oh, okay, Johnny. So, although they are having this party, they just don't seem like they're getting along in the moment. It's almost like, when you married and you could be arguing with your spouse in the car, but y'all about to go inside somewhere. And when you go inside somewhere, you got to be happy and on a united front. That's kind of the vibe I was getting from, them and their friends and things coming over. But okay. Then we see Bao's friend actually gives them a book as a wedding gift, and it's like a relationship book and has some information about sex in there. And we're like, okay, I guess. The girls talked about, and she says that it helps that she was familiar with Johnny, but also means because they were familiar, they kind of really jumped into having really deep conversations where some of the other couples are maybe having more so issues with really surface level things. But for theirs, it kind of jumped in real deep, real fast. And I do agree with that. And maybe if they would have just taken it slow, because I feel like although they knew each other, they just knew of each other while they were in college, and they didn't really know each other like that to really kind of be making some of the judgment calls and decisions that they are making thus far. Johnny says that he's about 60% falling for her, and it will just take time to reach the other 35%. And basically, Bao's friend is like, she just needs you to be all in, and Bao says that she is all in. So I guess we just waiting for Johnny to get there. I don't know. We then see Zach and Michaela, and I'm like, so I guess obviously y'all are going forward with the housewarming. Y'all made up. Y'all just going to push through. What is going on? We don't know at this point. They just, show her getting ready, and we assume Zach is going to show up. So her friends come over and help her get ready, and she's able to kind of catch up with them before the party starts. Zach then comes home with his friend, and he's able to take some time away with her friends so that he can kind of get a little bit more information about her. He shares that, how she called off the housewarming to her friends. And I'm learning very quickly that Zach needs to learn the filter of being a married couple and what you share with your friends and what you keep inside of your house. You can share and ask questions and get to know somebody without spilling all of the exact things that are going on inside of your home. That's not something you want to start with other people being inside of your business like that. So Zach, work on that if you want to stay married. Her friends basically say that she is very level-headed and he may be seeing a different side of her until she gets comfortable. And I give them the side eye of like, I don't know. I would believe that if her sisters didn't tell us early on that they gave her a nickname of Hurricane K, because that makes me wonder of how level-headed are you if your sisters gave you the nickname of Hurricane K. But okay, I don't know if I'm buying it, but I see what y'all trying to sell. She talks with his friend, and he says that, she has to just be really considerate of his feelings, and she just really can't do vindictive things to him because, it's been hard, and they really just have to learn what is and what isn't okay with each other. Michaela then says she bites her tongue, and when she said that, I said, where, honey? Where are you biting your tongue? Surely not will be so last week. No, ma'am. No, sir. So I'm like, was that biting her tongue? Would it get worse if she didn't hold herself back, or does she just have no self-awareness of, no, honey, you were not biting your tongue? That was a little bit uncalled for, but we'll continue to see how that plays out. His friend does say that Zach is big on communication and to be clear in how she feels, but also do it in a respectful and calming manner. And her friends basically say the same thing. So it's good to see that they're both really getting good advice for them to move forward. Now, rather they take that advice and actually do something with it, that's different, because it seems like Zach is just not going to be able to let this go, which we see in this scene. And then we also see it later on in the episode, which I know it can be hard. But you have to just address it and move on. You can't use this to define the whole relationship at this point. And I feel like Zach is just hung up on this whole, she blew up, she left, called off the housewarming party. And it's just so much worse than I personally feel like it is after you've talked about it and smoothed things over. So Brent and Ryan have their party. They play some games. They break off and talk to their spouse's friends. Ryan says that, we just talk so much and we communicate so much. We just have to stop ourselves from talking so much. And I'm like, really? Okay. They talk to their friends some more. And honestly, once again, with them, I got bored. And I don't know what else happened at their party. But okay. Lastly, Gil and Mirla have their guests over for their party. And basically, Gil starts poking in again on Mirla about, all the clothes and shoes in her closet. They keep saying, how great it is. They're able to kind of have this banter back and forth. And I'm like, yeah, it's all fun and games until things get serious one day. And he calls her a bougie bitch. And she says, oh, you brokey, you talking to me? It's all going to be fun and games until they spit out and start calling each other names one day. That's what I feel of the two of them, because they just go at it. And like I said, it's cute. It may be cute now, but it's going to get old real fast because y'all do it to each other all the time. So Gil has to talk about how they, look at each other's bank accounts and finances and things. And again, y'all are telling too much. Like, Gil, this is not their business for y'all to know every single thing that's going on with y'all. It's not their business. Stop running your mouth so much. Of course, he talks about how they haven't kissed yet. And if they have not kissed by decision day, he's going to say no. And he thinks that a little bit Mirla is conditioned with her behavior as far as not kissing, and she's not really willing to try anything new or different to open up. And I can see that a little bit, but it is what it is with Mirla, and she ain't changing for nobody. Gil then talks to Mirla's guy friend, who says that, he's basically had a friendship with her for over 10 years. And he said he's never seen her be affectionate with a partner. And I just thought that was so weird that in 10 years, has she maybe not been in that many relationships, or has she just really not been affectionate toward anybody in front of her friends or family? Like, not a kiss, not a hug, not a hand holding, not a back rub, not a hand on the knee. Like, oh my God, nothing? Whoo, Gil, you gonna have, uphill battle there. But that ain't my problem. Mirla then talks to, his friends about, how she is very much so money driven. He is the complete opposite. And she says, I would not move into an apartment like his. That just ain't happening. And while I cannot recall what Gil's apartment looks like, I can't recall either that her apartment was so spectacular that she wouldn't be able to live in an apartment like his. Y'all let me know if I missed something. Johnny and Bao then get ready for bed. Once again, I feel like with Johnny and Bao, all we do is see them get ready for bed and brush their teeth. Like, every episode, we see them get ready for bed and brush their teeth 3 to 5 times. They the only couple that we see brush their teeth, get in the bed all the time. So I'm like, well, Bao, she may not shower every day, but she keep it with her oral hygiene, honey. They say that they were able to put their differences aside and have their party, which we did see. But again, it really felt like it was a strain and it was really fake. But at least in this instance, this is really the first time I've seen both of them be really relaxed in this moment and really have a conversation where I feel like they could finally like woosah and take a breather and not go to bed with so much heaviness on their mind. The episode kind of closes with Zach and Michaela as they're kind of cleaning up the apartment from the party and really talking about what they learned about speaking with their friends. Michaela then, says that she does think she took advantage of Zach's caring side because she isn't used to being in a relationship where someone is in it as much as she is. And she admits that she really overreacted. And she expressed, how that made him feel. And I was like, kudos, Michaela, for being able to recognize, have that self-reflection and actually hold yourself accountable for your behavior that you have with Zach. Zach then says he doesn't know if he can honestly tell her how he feels because he isn't sure how she is going to react, and says that, I had more anxiety walking into the apartment today than I had on the wedding day. He then says he doesn't know how they can reconcile the situation, and he's okay with not knowing how to reconcile or not even reconciling right now. And I'm like, huh? What, sir? You don't see a problem with not being able to reconcile right now? Like, I feel like she's being very vulnerable in this moment and really, holding herself accountable for what has happened. And Zach is like, he is not letting his foot up off of her neck about it. And I'm like, I don't know about this because it seems, again, we could have missed a whole lot because of the editing, but it just seems like Zach is just, he's giving her a really hard time about this and he does not seem to let up. And I'm like, I don't think maybe even for them, they're realizing that, you guys, this is what, maybe like day 13 of marriage. But for y'all, this may be more like day 7 or 8 because y'all had like a week apart because Jack had to quarantine in Florida while Michaela was back in Texas. So it's like, just dial it down a bit and take things a bit slower because this has just gotten really bad really fast and I don't understand. But again, maybe something bigger has happened that we just have not been able to see. But the way Zach is behaving, it's almost like he's using this as either this is just going to be something that he's able to, hold over her neck, or this is going to be something that he's going to keep in his back pocket to gaslight her with later. I'm getting that feeling from Zach of he's just like, I just can't get past this. I just don't feel comfortable. Like, he doesn't feel comfortable to the point that he can't even stay at the apartment together that night. And I'm like, y'all, I don't understand how we went from y'all being fan favorite at the wedding to now this shit show that we are seeing. Like, both of y'all have some extreme growing up to do. Zach really has some maturing that he needs to do. I see that Michaela really has some maturing she needs to do, mostly on the emotional side of things, kind of just recovering from the things that she's experienced in her past and how not to pull that into her relationships. But really, Zach, you in a marriage, you're going, like, this ain't gonna be the last argument that y'all are gonna have. You're gonna argue, you're gonna apologize, and you're gonna move on from it. And if every situation is gonna take 5 to 7 business days for you to accept her apology and move on, I don't know how y'all gonna make it. But again, I don't think they're gonna make it, but we'll see what happens over the course of the season, y'all. Let me know what you thought about this episode. How do you guys feel? Share your thoughts below. This was a little bit exhausting, and from the previews next week, it doesn't look like we're gonna get any relief, and things are just gonna continue to spiral for these couples this season. So let's talk about it in the comments below. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.